I declare what month are we in? August agenda briefing session open at 4 p.m. The disclaimer: agenda briefing sessions are used to inform councillors on the items of business to be presented and discussed at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. These meetings are open to members of the public who may request to present a deputation to council relating to an item on the agenda. No decisions are made at these meetings, although councillors can request additional information or alternative wording be provided to allow for motions to be prepared for consideration at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. Any statement regarding any planning or development application made during an agenda briefing session is not to be taken as notice of approval. Anyone who has an application lodged with the Shire must obtain and should only rely on written confirmation of the outcome of the application and any conditions attached to the decision made by council. An audio and visual record will be made by means of live streaming of these proceedings and uploaded to the Shire's YouTube page for viewing. Acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities, their cultures, and to elders past, present and emerging. Record of apologies and leave of absence is nil. We have all councillors present this afternoon. Declarations of members and officers' personal interest. Councillors, do we have any? We'll start here. Councillor McCarthy.
I'd like to declare an interest, impartiality interest in 5.1.1 as I'm a member of the ARIC committee.
Councillor Dickinson.
I would like to also declare impartiality for the same reason on the same item. Thank you.
I'll go around the room. Councillor Bromham.
Ditto.
Ditto.
What did?
The 5.1.2, the ARIC committee. Councillor Coleman.
5.1.1, yes, thank you.
The ARIC committee.
Councillor Hitchcock. I should do by exemption. Those that aren't on the ARIC committee, put your hand up. Councillor Morley. 5.3.1, yes.
In that I've been lobbied by an opposer to the development, and I know the opposer's wife through the association.
Okay, so impartiality interest. Thank you.
And what a rough idea on the ARIC committee too, like this, I can't remember it. So that as well.
And myself as well, I'm on the ARIC too, so there we go. Just about half of the council. Are there any others, councillors? As we go through, if you identify anything, please let us know. Councillor Carboni.
I'll just get some clarification off you, and I'm quite happy to declare an impartiality interest. It's in my notice of motion with regards to trading hours, and I know several shop owners or business owners throughout the Shire, especially in Australind. I don't know whether I should declare an impartiality interest in that regard, but it's something that affects everyone, I suppose. It's like a state government minister talking on education. His kids go to school, I suppose.
CEO.
Yeah, thanks, Madam President. I feel that's a bit of an interest in common. However, I suppose the general rule is when in doubt, impartiality declaration. It's obviously not a financial declaration. That I understand. So at best impartiality, but it feels like it's an interesting common as a common decision that the council needs to make or consider.
So completely up to you, Councillor Carboni.
I thought you'd say that. Well, I will declare an impartiality interest in that item and stay in the room and judge it on its merits.
Always good to be on the safe side. Any more councillors? No? Okay, thank you. We'll now move into deputations, and I'd like to invite Mr Jim Travers to come forward. Mr Travers, his deputation is in relation to item 5.3.1, the retrospective application for development approval at lot 135 Carrigacup Avenue, Harvey. Welcome, Mr Travers, to the chambers. I'll just get you to turn on your microphone if you can. That's it. Well done. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Shire President and councillors. Thanks for having me here today. I just wanted to start off by saying any questions that this deputation raises, if we could email them to me and I'll take them on notice so I can reply formally to anything that's raised in what I have to say today. And then it'll be on official council records as well. It'll give me time to research the issue a bit further because I've been strapped for time to even get this little bit put together. So I'm speaking today on behalf of the residents to formally object to this retrospective development application for the Transport Depot at Lot 135 Corrigicup Ave in Harvey. This objection is going to be strictly based on established planning laws, zoning definitions and heavy vehicle regulations. The subject site consists of premier agricultural land tied directly to Harvey's gravity-fed irrigation scheme, which has been funded over the years via the West Australian taxpayers to lift the dam wall and gravity pipe all that water to the priority agricultural land. Paving over this land to establish an industrial transport yard will permanently remove the agricultural asset from the district. It won't be able to be reinstated. This land that we have is probably second to none in Western Australia, and I think it's highly undervalued. You go a long way to find another district, irrigation district, that we have here in Harvey on heavy fertile clay soil, and all the boxes are ticked. Gravitation water, no fuel, carbon fuels burnt, getting that water under pressure to the boundaries to the farms at a relatively cheap rate compared to other parts of Australia. And I think in this climate that we have, it is something that should be valued, and I don't think it's being valued enough. So moving on to some of the legal definitions, particularly around amenity, I want to draw the council's attention directly to the statutory definition of amenity under the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes and Regulations of 2015. Under West Australian law, council is legally bound to consider whether a development negatively impacts the acoustic, visual and environmental amenity of the locality. An industrial transport yard operating on an unsealed footprint in an agricultural zone is a fundamental mismatch. The operational reality of this site introduces low frequency engine idling, air braking, noise, heavy vehicle gear changes that exceed acceptable acoustic thresholds for this zone. Furthermore, the movement of multi-trailer combinations over imported unsealed fill generates substantial dust emissions and diesel particulates that migrate into adjoining properties. This constitutes a severe nuisance under the standard planning definitions and is a direct breach of the amenity protections built into your local planning scheme. I'd like to also discuss the misalignment with the state planning guidelines. Furthermore, this application represents a critical policy failure. The Shire of Harvey is currently operating out of step with the rest of the Greater Bunbury region by failing to adhere strictly to the state government guidelines for the preservation of priority agricultural land. The permanent installation of industrial handstand over priority topsoil cannot be reclassified as a temporary or compatible agricultural land use. If Council approves this retrospective application, it will establish an irreversible planning precedent It signals to the market that the agricultural zoning restrictions can be bypassed by operating illegally, then seeking retrospective approval after the fact. We must ask, if the Shire does not enforce state guidelines to protect priority agricultural land here, what is the legal purpose of the zoning? I'd like to also discuss, or for people to take it on board, the council and councillors to take this on board, is the procedural unfairness and the flawed consultation period. The administrative process leading to this session has also failed to meet the standards of procedural fairness and natural justice required of local government. First, the public advertising window was far too restrictive to allow residents to engage professional town planners, traffic engineers, or legal advice. Secondly, the Shire Planning Officer nominated on the notification letters as the sole point of contact was absent on annual leave for the entire duration of the consultation period, returning only on the day submissions closed. Thirdly, formal requests from residents for a reasonable time extension went unanswered for days and were ultimately denied at the 11th hour. Finally, the wording of the survey sent out to local residents was highly subjective and pointed towards an approval outcome. This compromised the process and denied the community of fair opportunity to present independent expert advice. I want to move on to the heavy vehicle network around Harvey and the operational safety of this depot, if it is approved where it is currently wants to be landed. Looking at the regulatory compliance of the current operation, this is a retrospective application because the operators chose to ignore explicit local government orders. 6 months ago, the Shire Compliance Officer inspected the site, confirmed unauthorised use and instructed the business to cease operations until a valid development was lodged and approved. Instead, operations continued, unauthorised fill was imported and the footprint was expanded. The DA details a fleet comprising of 6 prime movers, 12 trailers and 6 dollies. This fleet configuration provides a clear operational intent to run heavy double Bs and road train combinations from this operation. Under the main roads of Western Australia heavy vehicle network, Corrigi Avenue is completely off route for these configurations. Operating these heavy vehicle combinations on a non-approved local road is a direct regulatory violation. Most critically, these combinations are entering and exiting directly to an established school bus stop out front. Forcing off-road heavy multi-trailer combinations to interface with school bus routes creates an unmitigated traffic safety liability which the Shire will hold knowledge. The other thing that I'd like everyone to consider before voting on this next week is the land title attachment. Scope growth as well. We must address the long-term planning implications regarding title attachment and scope growth. It is a fundamental principle of planning law that development approves run with the land. meaning that it's not going to run with the individual. If this is approved and this operation could be sold on to a multinational in years to come, and we'll have a much larger footprint there where we are. While a local family operates the business today, this approval legally clears the way for the site to be sold in the future to a multinational logistics operation or corporation. The Shire would have no legal power to prevent a large-scale corporate entity from intensifying the operation to a 24/7 industrial trucking hub. The Shire Compliance Department does not have the administrative resources to monitor daily trucking counts, meaning council will lose regulatory control over the scope growth of this site. Furthermore, independent real estate valuations for the adjoining blocks have confirmed it will cause a devaluation of the surrounding properties from anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000. We had two separate real estate agencies come out and confirm those prices for us. In conclusion, this application represents a non-compliant industrial use on priority agricultural land, violates the statutory amenity protections of the planning regulations, operates off-route of the heavy vehicle network, and creates an unmitigated safety hazard on the school bus route zones. I urge the councillors, or we urge the councillors, to uphold the integrity of your planning schemes, enforce the law, and refuse this application. Thank you for hearing me out, and any questions I'll take via email if you don't mind, please.
Okay, thanks, Mr Travis.
you.
So, councillors, did you have anything? I know Mr Travis has said email. Firstly, what is your email, Mr Travis? And secondly, are there any simple questions that you want to pose to Mr Travis today? No? Okay then. Mr Travis, your email?
I think everyone's got my
They've got it? Okay.
Previous email out.
Okay.
Probably 2 months ago to all councillors.
Okay.
Highlight the issue in the area.
Okay, thank you, Mr Travis. Is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to give a deputation? If not, we'll move through to the officers' reports. We'll move through to 5.1.1, which is the ARIC Deputy of the Presiding Member Appointment Clarification, which appears to be, who would have thought one word would make such a difference to the role. Are there any questions, councillors, in relation to this report? Thank you. We'll move through to 5.1.2, which is the Optus Mobile lease in Leschenault. Were there any questions in relation to this one? Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. I note that in the background, the land was vested in the Shire for cemetery purposes. So are we going to need this land for future cemetery? Because we know that they are going to expand.
It's a growing industry, unfortunately. To the CEO, to Mr Hughes maybe, or?
Yeah, happy to. It's a large tract of land, but unless there's anything more to add on that one, it's a large tract of land unlikely to be needed for future cemetery purposes.
Okay, and just to follow up, it says that as the proposed lease would constitute a disposal of property, and then it goes on to talk about leasing costs. So if we dispose of it, how can we lease it?
Through the President, under the Act, a lease is treated as a disposal of property or land, so it's still treated as a disposal. So a lease is treated as a disposal, as is a sale as well, under the Local Government Act.
So we would still own it?
Correct.
Okay, the
Yep.
disposal is just we're not using it type word, not a disposal as we would know it. as in a sale.
Correct, yeah. So what you're doing is disposing of a right to the land that you hold at that time. So it's also a management order that we run. So we have the power to lease, and we're disposing of that land for a period of time. So therefore, you have to appeal. Sorry, you have to go through those elements of the Act to make sure that you're going through that process as per 358 of the Act.
Thank you.
No worries.
Councillor Bronwyn?
Yeah, this location's covered in bush at the moment, and it's near a school and housing. So I'm wondering how much of the bush would have to be removed for what they're proposing to put in on this particular parcel of land.
Unknown.
Unknown, yeah. No. Sorry, Councillor Bronwyn, unknown. This more is just the land. I'm assuming they would have to go through a DA process through the Shire as well. So and those components of any land clearing and part of that DA will be considered during then.
Okay, so it will come back to council once that's in place before we make any final decision. Is that what you're saying?
Depends on delegation. I'd have to check that for you, Councillor Bronwyn.
Yeah, I'd like to know that, please. Thank you.
I did have a couple of questions that I sent through, so happy for these to be taken on notice. So are we able to place a height restriction on the tower, noting that it's located close to residential properties and at a school? Does this application or this DA go out for public comment? Because I can imagine the residents that are in close proximity may have some issues around this. In the heads of terms, it doesn't address removal. It talks about dismantling, but it doesn't talk about the removal or the rehabilitation of the site. So is that something that we can put in the conditions? And access to the site during construction and maintenance, because there's that pedestrian cycle path. So I was just wondering how they would actually access that site to do the works and how long it would take and the impediment it would have on the pedestrian cycle path, because it's used by the public to get to and from school and the like. So there's a number of questions there.
Yeah, thanks, Madam President. I can answer a couple of those now if you like, and the rest we can take on notice unless we've got...
Then all those questions would be considered once the land's disposed of, and they would come back to us.
Yeah. So and that'll also be covered through that DA process as well, from certainly access restrictions, etc. as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But we can come back with an official response on those too, Councillor, if you like.
Thank you. No. Were there any other questions, Councillor McCarthy?
Some of them that I had been asked already. Just I wasn't aware that that car park off the cemetery was actually a gazetted road. So we've got a gazetted road with parking off of it. What I'm wondering is, and that gets heavily used by people who are dropping their kids there to walk through to the school and use that footpath. Just wondering whether Optus would be parking their vehicles in that car park, in that car park only has about 10 car bays.
Through the chair. So do you mean during construction?
And any other time?
Generally not, because it's pretty much an unmanned tower. I suppose maybe for maintenance we'd have to see what that would look like through any DA process coming through. So I'd think unlikely, but would need to see that through any application that they put through.
Yeah, just also that their access track wouldn't block the current footpath cycleway, so I think that might be pretty similar to what Shire President asked. The head of terms, the monetary value there with the percentage increase per annum was similar to another Shire government's land, which was of different value, so whether that could be looked at. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to look at that. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Dickinson.
Even though this proposal is with Optus, would there be any other communication companies allowed to use the infrastructure as well? And I do know that that is up to their discretion, possibly.
Yeah, through the chair, at this stage we're not aware of any that are joining Optus on it, but Optus would have that ability to be able to sublease to another provider. So you could have a Telstra and a Vodafone or something up there as well, depending on that. From memory, I thought that included that there'd be an extra cost to them for that, but I'd have to check for you.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. We'll move on to infrastructure services 5.2.1, which is the solar PV and the BESS installation at both LLC and the Shire of Harvey Works depot. If there's any general questions, I can take that. If there's anything in relation to the tender, then noting that's confidential, we'll need to go behind closed doors. So, were there any questions? Councillor Bromham.
Yeah, just generally, when we talk about the buildings down at the LLC, are these panels going, because that are proof of sheds basically, old garages and things like that. So I'm just wondering if they're going to go on them or if they're going to go on the LLC roof.
Through the chair, they will be going on the LLC roof, and it has been considered for its structural integrity to be able to take those panels, and it's been deemed to be appropriate to put them on there.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, just a general query again. Just the the tender was regarding the BESS and the PV, and I'm just wondering, the LLC didn't have the BESS included. Why that was chosen to go that way?
I'd have to take that on notice. I couldn't answer that at this time.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. We'll move to item 5.2.2, the cleaning of the Shire, public barbecues and public toilets. Once again, take general questions. If there's issues or questions in relation to the tender process, I'll go behind closed doors. Were there any questions? Councillor Bromham.
Yeah, I just wondered, having been to a few of these facilities, what's the benchmark of what is acceptable in relation to cleaning? Do you have a benchmark or some criteria?
I can answer that. Thank you, Madam President. So we do have a specification that sets out what's required for the cleaners to undertake those works. So they are based on conditions that we set in regards to what those standards are, and I think that they're appropriate for those facilities, so they will have to abide and meet those standards.
Follow-up question?
Yeah, just how do we ensure that's the case? How often do we inspect?
Thank you again, through the chair. So we will have a monitoring process. I can speak particularly on the barbecue one and not the cleaning because I was managing the barbecue one. So we did independent spot checks, which will also occur with this. I was a little bit different. I'd be out there at 5:30 in the morning watching them clean the barbecues down at Ridley and catch up with them to make sure they were being compliant. Not saying that our property maintenance team will be there that early, but we will have a process in place that will monitor their achievements and make sure they're meeting their requirements.
And I'm sure the community lets us know when there's an issue with barbecues and or our public toilets. Just a question in relation to the peak times. Is that embedded into the contract? So, you know, when we get during summer, when there's more visitors utilising the toilets and all our toilet paper disappears, is that embedded into the contract?
I'd have to actually ask Marius to respond to that one. If you'd like to come up and just let us know if that's the case, please, Marius.
Welcome, Marius.
Through the chair, most of these toilets will be cleaned on a daily basis. So, and then there's a few that will be cleaned. My apologies. Actually, all of them will be cleaned on a daily basis, and we will monitor that during the week. So we now have a full team on board, and we will arrange for that to be monitored during the week.
I I know that, you know, at Christmas time and the like, when we get an influx of visitors
Yeah.
or crabbing people down at Ridley Place, there may be the need to increase the number of inspections or the like of the public toilets, for example, but they would just be peak times, if we're just cognizant of that, I suppose.
We will do that, thank you, we will monitor that.
Yeah, and councillor Carboni does not like the thin toilet paper, but that's another... I'm waiting for a notice of motion to come through on that one. Pardon the pun. I know. Thought you picked that one up, councillor Holly. I thought I was quite quick. Are there any further serious questions, councillor Dickinson?
Yeah, I was just, and forgive me if I've misread things, but it doesn't really identify, it says for the Shire, but it doesn't really identify whether they're all the facilities in the Shire or whether we have different contractors do different sites. And so it's actually a bit confusing possibly for members of the public and also us as councillors, because this contract is not going for example, every single toilet of the Shire, is it? It's only designated ones.
But I'll get Mr Faber through the CEO.
Yes, sorry, through the chair, yes, that's correct. So they are for the public toilets and our barbecues. So they will be listed in the specification which ones need to be attended to. But it is, you're correct, it's not all of our buildings and every toilet that we have as a facility.
Any other? Councillor Holly.
Got a rough number of how many there would be?
I can tell you that there's 36 barbecues, but I can't tell you how many toilets we have.
All right. Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. I'll move on to sustainable development, item 5.3.1, which is the retrospective application for the DA Transport Depot at Corrigicup Avenue. I'm anticipating some further questions on this one. Councillors, Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. Just a few queries. The development does not include nor propose the storage of any goods or materials associated with the use of the vehicles, but we will allow 4 20-litre drums of engine oil. So if we're not going to allow the storage of goods for the use of the vehicles, we're allowing 80 litres of oil to be stored. So it seems to be a bit of a disconnect there. I noticed that the applicant wanted 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and we're suggesting 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. For the approved use. So my question would be, I'm very cognizant of diesel trucks, and you start them up about half an hour before you need to run them, and then they need to warm down as well, or cool down as they call it. So does that include the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, or is that not classed as a use because they're really noisy? Is that question?
Okay, we'll go one at a time.
Sure.
So I'll deal with the 80 litres of oil. Mr Hughes,
through the chair, and to preempt Ms Edwards for Manager for Planning Services, but I suppose to answer the noise question, the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is from the noise regulations. So that whatever activity is being carried out there needs to comply with that.
They can't start them up, they have to have them closed down, warmed down by 7 p.m.
So all I'll say is it needs to comply with the noise regulation. So if there's any complaints, any concerns or inquiries regarding that, we can investigate that under that legislation and through that condition. But I will hand over to Ms Edwards.
So through the chair, in relation to their reference for the no storage of goods associated, that would generally relate to what the trucks would generally be transporting. So some transport depots will have the trucks, but it's also a depot itself for the goods and materials, whatever they might be carrying. So for these ones, we've said that they can't actually store that. It's just basically the trucks and the trailers themselves.
Next question, Councillor Coleman.
Sure. Can you define a vehicle movement for me, please? Because one vehicle movement is that way. A second movement is this way, but it's the same vehicle. So are we talking 20 per week or 10 per week?
So through the chair, when we're talking about movements, we are talking about that single. So 2 movements is 1 vehicle leaving and coming back. So 10 vehicle movements would be 5 trucks leaving and coming back over the week.
And my last question, if I may. At what point do we stop retrospectively approving people who go ahead and do what they want with the land, whether it be this one or anything else? It just seems to me that if I can go ahead and do anything I like with my property, as long as I can come to council and say, please approve. So I'm just wondering, at what point do we stop retrospectively approving? And the second part to that question is, what happens if we don't approve this?
Through the chair, good question. We can't prevent people lodging applications. Because something is retrospective, we can't refuse that unless we have justification for refusal. If we take this one, for example, if council refuses this, then they will need to remove all the vehicles and stop using it.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood your first bit. So we do have the ability to say no, and they have to make good.
We have reasons, yeah.
All right, thank you.
But that can be appealed? There's an appeal
Yes.
process? Yep. Mr Hughes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Common, for your questions. Just to add to that, if we come across a compliance issue or breach, that's a breach of legislation. So an offence has occurred effectively under that legislation. However, the Shire or any other local government can use its discretion in pursuing that breach. So we will acknowledge it. So in this case, a breach has occurred under legislation. However, within the legislation that is factored in. So for example, retrospective approval, DA application fees are 3 times the amount. So that's a built-in fine, let's say, imposed on that property owner. Depending on the severity of the breach, of course, it'll be assessed on its merits. In this scenario, though, we've gone with a retrospective approval at the request of the owner.
Okay, so just to follow that up, is that accurate that Mr Travers presented that this has been going, he was first pinged 6 months ago, first picked up 6 months ago and given a Shire equivalent of a stop work order?
Through the chair, yes, we did have I think we actually noted it ourselves, but yes, we did have our compliance officer looking into this one, and there was no formal direction issued to cease. They would have been advised to cease, but it wasn't a formal direction under the legislation, and they were requested to put an application in if they were wanting to continue. We did get an application, and it took us a while to get all the information that we needed to be able to proceed with the application. So that was the hold up.
Thank you.
Councillor Bromham and then Councillor Holly.
Yeah, when you talk about a hub like this, when they've obviously been operating, because he says he's going to bitumise the area, they've been conducting maintenance on their trucks and other things that would be an environmental issue in relation to oil spills and such?
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of. I haven't received any information to say that they have been, but as we know through the application, they've got the storage of the oil, which could be as simple as topping up the oil like you do with a vehicle that goes through a bit of oil.
Councillor Holly?
Yeah, just one thing. Sorry, the microphone didn't work. Just one thing, sort of being the devil's advocate here, if they sort of get worried and hark up, where if we get asked the question about comparing the truck bay out the 7th Road UDOC What's the difference? You know, it's very similar. The land is similar, irrigated and all that sort of thing, and a similar block. But I mean, I know my point of this, but I'm just wondering what we're going to have all prepared to have for an answer with that.
Through the chair, technically speaking, there is no difference. That one on UDUC was approved a number of years ago. That was done through from memory, a restricted use, so the scheme was actually amended to allow for it. With the new scheme, that changed slightly, and their transport depot use was included, that it could be considered. Yeah.
So what sort of answer will we come up with if that comes, you know, if that question gets asked, well, how come he can have it and he can't have it, sort of thing?
It's on a case-by-case merit base. We would have to have justification to have one or two in the area and not approve a third.
Thank you.
Councillor Coleman?
Thank you. I did go out and visit didn't visit the site. I went out to the site and had a look. So my understanding is, if we compare what Councillor Holly just said, how many houses are in the vicinity of UDUC Road, other than what the owner lives in of the truck depot, versus how many houses are in the vicinity of this application?
Through the chair, I would need to take that one on notice. I don't know.
Mr Travis, in his deputation, sorry, Councillor Morley, I'll come to you, I'll just ask this question. He raised some concerns around the consultation period. So do staff feel that the residents or those that would be impacted had sufficient time to submit their objections or investigate their objections? According to Mr Travis, the contact person only just came back on leave on the day when objections were due. So just wanted to make sure that we're confident that the community or the residents out there had sufficient time to respond.
Yep, through the chair. Yes, the assessing officer was on leave after he sent that out for advertising. We did have staff available though for queries to go through. The advertising period was the statutory minimum period that we have. Yes, we did get a request to extend it. Any extension needs to be actually approved by the applicant, needs to support that. Otherwise, we always generally advise that until we are at the point of finalising our report, we can still accept, and we will still accept late submissions. Considering we had, how many submissions did we get? 9 or 10, something like that. And they were, yeah, got all their concerns across.
Okay. Councillor Morley and then Councillor Caboni.
Yeah, just a point on the officer's recommendations. It refers to Coolidge Cup and 9th Street. It's not the location. The location is Coolidge Cup and 8th, between 8th and 7th. So that needs to be probably amended. That's just my point. That's all.
Addendums will be being issued with those changes.
Okay. Councillor Caboni.
So the question I ask first up is, are we acting illegally or in breach of any state government framework? Now, we have a number of these transport depots, if you like, or trucks parked on properties all over the Shire. And indeed, we've approved here many of them over time. But like Mr Travis said in his deputation, we're on priority agricultural land. We're on land that's under the control, well, not under the control, but it's used by Harvey Water. It's for priority agriculture. We're under the Greater Bunbury Region scheme. We're under our town planning scheme. So I guess to answer his question, are we in breach or are we doing anything illegal?
Through the chair, our scheme allows for the use to be considered. The scheme has been prepared against the Greater Bunbury Region scheme, state planning policies. The WA Planning Commission went through the scheme with a fine-tooth comb, did make changes. Some of those were changes to land uses. and their permissibilities. The scheme has been approved by the WAPC, has been approved by the Minister. So the scheme allows us to consider it, and obviously our assessment goes through the various planning framework documents for us to come to our conclusion.
The answer's no.
No.
Councillor McCarthy.
So just a couple of questions. First up, it was that Mr. Travers suggested that the footprint was enlarged after a cease order had been given. Do we know anything about that?
Through the chair, no, I don't. My knowledge, initially there was no gravel or anything like that. It was just the grass. And as I said, the cease was a request. There was no formal legislated direction. And once an application has been submitted and we're processing that, any compliance actions or anything like that that was happening, that kind of gets set aside while we deal with that application.
And the other question I had was regarding the heavy haulage route, that this is not on a heavy haulage route. Anybody with long trucks and heavy haulage like that, do they have to park them just on that route? For instance, with the heavy haulage route being Udup Road, etc., being that far down, is that allowed to actually jump onto the heavy haulage, or is that a breach having that sort of truck moving in non-heavy haulage?
Through the chair, I can't answer that. That's through main roads under their legislation. We don't have, that ability. So any approvals they may need for their RAV classification, that's through main roads.
Just follow up on that. How can we determine that they can or can't, or we would choose to agree or disagree if we know whether they're complying with heavy haulage?
We can't not consider and not determine an application that then also needs a third-party approval, so we can't hold ours up. We can't put conditions on ours to say you need to get, you can't do it until you get approval from main roads, because that's a third-party approval that we have no jurisdiction or anything over.
Through the CEO, Mr. Faber, did you want
I can probably just answer that a little bit more. So there is a process to get a RAV approval. Generally, the applicant make application to main roads, and the Shire will be asked to provide support to that. There currently is a RAV rating on that road. I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head, and it will really depend on what they're going to be driving in and out of the site. So once that's determined, the RAV rating might already be suitable. If it's not, then they would need to make an application to allow those vehicles to travel on that road. And ultimately, the Shire does get a say in that.
Now, Councillor Bromham and then Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, I think you might have answered this. So in that RAV process, would for instance, if they're travelling down one of our roads and obviously we get damage, is there a financial amount that they would have to pay towards the roads that they're utilising with vehicles that normally wouldn't travel on it?
Through the chair, there isn't a mechanism to actually claim back any damage, but generally, as part of that RAV process, the road is generally, for different RAV applications, the roads will have different construction standards. So for larger vehicles, generally they'll be on a road that's suitable to carry those. And that's where the Shire also gets the ability to say, well, we don't believe that that road's suitable for that designation. But there isn't a mechanism where we can go, well, you've damaged the road. The mechanism that we do have is that we might support that if you upgrade the road to allow for that vehicle. And we've had a couple of recent incidents where we've said those vehicles can't turn appropriately on the road. So if you widen the road and fix the curbs up and do those things, that we will consider those considerations.
Thanks.
Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, thank you. So whilst we can't say to someone, we can't hold it up because they need to apply for a RAV, surely we'd be able to reject any application if it needs a RAV and it's already not supported. So, you know, if they want to put heavy trucks on a road that's not supported, surely we can say that you can't get your trucks on or off the property if the road doesn't already support it, without making it conditional that they get a RAV, the appropriate RAV.
Does the road support it?
Through the chair, I can't answer that. I'm not aware of what they're going to be running in and out with. If it's multi-combination vehicles, it may not be, but if it's not that, then it may. I would need to get some more detail and determine the current RAV on that road and provide a comment.
CEO?
Yeah, so it does depend on the combinations going through, but as Ms Edwards mentioned, that we can't condition an approval subject to another organisation's or another department's decision-making process too. So they have the right to apply to main roads as they have a right to apply here to the Shire of Harvey, but we can't condition our approvals based on somebody else's approvals.
Does that mean though that although we can't say it's a condition of, because the road's not approved, we can't approve ours? We're not making it conditional, we're just saying you can't use the road.
Yeah, through the...
Go ahead. CEO, did you want to speak? Yeah.
Happy to hand over to Ms Edwards there. Yeah.
Ms Edwards.
Through the chair. I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable if that was the only reason for refusal, that would stand up.
The other thing, how do I put this? A question. Councillors, are you aware that there has been substantial deposits of gravel hard stands out there since you mentioned that there was only grass stands out there? There's significant build-up of gravel and hard stands since the verbal cease order has been issued. So, yes, I hope our councillors are aware of that.
Well, I would suggest we're not, but if staff are aware of it, any development on the land?
Not of the whole area. I know they did some.
Okay. I suppose the last question is the land use. If we approve this, stays with the land regardless of what happens with it in the future. Should they wish to, assuming we approve it and the land use stays with the property, if they wish to expand future owners on the property, does that create another amendment to the DA or anything like along those lines? So what we approve today, should we approve it next week, the land use and the size of the use stays with that property. If it's sold in the future and they wish to change it by enlarging the size of the hard standing or whatever, they need to come back to council?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, new application or amendment.
Okay. Yep. Any other questions, councillors? Yeah. Well, here we go. Councillor Holly.
What's an RAV?
RAV.
Restricted access vehicle.
There we go. Councillor Coleman.
So is this application for the whole of lot 135? Because that's a huge piece of land. It's not just a little bit that they're on at the moment with their house. So would they therefore need to come back to us for expansion if we've approved the whole block of land?
Through the chair, the application only relates to that portion of land shown on the plan, which in the report does say how many hectares it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. So it's only that area shown on the plans.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bromham and then Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, looking at it from an environmental management process, I know in mining, when we're going to do refuelling, maintenance, washing down of our vehicles, all these things need to be captured into certain containers so they're not contaminating the area. So in relation to what they're doing on this site, will that be implemented through our requirements in relation to the operation?
Through the chair, there's no plans as part of this application to wash down the vehicles. If they do propose to do that later, that will be subject to a new application or an amendment. The oil changes, whatever they're doing with the oil, refuelling, anything minor, we have got condition on the approval for drainage management, and that would then be looked at as part of that process, how that runoff is managed.
Yeah, there's certain specific ones they've got to get captured in order. I just wondered if that's the case. I mean, it'd be interesting to know what they're actually wanting to do on this site in relation to the management of their vehicles, not just parking them there, wouldn't it?
Through the chair, the application is for the parking of them, and the land use allows for ancillary maintenance and refuelling off the top of my head. We've suggested a condition that they can't do major servicing. They have specifically stated they're not washing down on site. I think that's all I can recall.
Can we make that a condition? If that's an issue? Yeah.
We can. It is in their application, and that will form part of their approval.
Okay.
And that's what they have to comply with.
Councillor McCarthy.
I was just going to say that condition G says this shall not entail major repairs to servicing or that, and I'm thinking that could just, the washing down of vehicles could be just put into that same condition. I'd certainly like to see it there. The other thing I was going to ask is that considering this is a retrospective application and considering there was a verbal cease order and further has gone, what is the go-ahead? Should this get through council and be endorsed by council? I know we're talking about that they need to apply to main roads for heavy vehicle road driving thing, but it appears that the applicant probably wouldn't do that, possibly couldn't do that, and then if they didn't, what is there is that we can go and say that you've breached that because it's not actually our condition. So would that be up to surrounding landowners to be contacting main roads and asking the question, or what's the go there?
Through the chair, it could potentially be landowners, as they would contact us as well. Could be Shire, contact main roads.
Any other questions, councillors? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Edwards. Who would have thought? Okay. All right, councillors, we'll move on to item 5.4.1, which is the Corporate Services Policy Review, the Financial Hardship Policy. There was an addendum, an additional attachment that was sent out that had all the changes marked up. Councillors, were there any further questions in relation to this one? No, all good, thank you. 5.4.2, which deals with payments for July 2026. I know that some have been sent through and I think responded to in partial. Yes. CEO, were there any other councillors in relation to payments for July 2026? Councillor McCarthy.
And apologies for not sending these through. I was looking at this late last night. Item 61.110, it's a PCI electrical, $23,000 for a pump controls cabinet in Kingston Estate. Just wondering what that actually is. Is that near a pond or something like that?
Through the CEO to Mr Faber, who's waving at me. You must have an answer.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, so it's an irrigation control cabinet, so it actually controls the irrigation system. So it's basically takes the water out and puts it around the estate.
And just another?
Yep.
64.152, for thermometers for the health department. I'm just wondering why we're paying for the thermometers for the health department, or is there something more to that than that?
Might take that one on notice
Through the
why
chair,
our
yeah, we'll take
healthies
that one on
need a
notice.
thermometer.
That's okay.
I'm sure it's for a good reason. But, yeah, we'll get back to you on that one.
Last one, just lots of umpiring fees. And is there a reason that we pay the umpires' fees? Why is that not paid from clubs or associations?
Ms Hazelhurst, are you able to?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Sorry, I noticed lots of umpiring fees, mostly basketball and netball, and I just wondered why clubs or associations don't pay the umpires rather than the Shire.
Thank you for the question. It is to do with the programs that are run directly by the LLCs. So a lot of the clubs and associations hire the venue and run their own programs, but we also run social programs for which we are required to provide umpires.
There was a few of them. It's not a bad income, actually, if you can umpire. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, and thank you for the staff for answering most of my questions. Just one I wanted to bring up was CP 63.116 and CP 65.101. Real steel seem to have been duplicated invoice, so just wondering if I could get a clarification on that, please. Looks like it's been done twice.
Thank you, through you, Madam President. The invoices that we received had the same purchase order number for different invoices. They were put into the system. When the second invoice was put into the system recognised that the purchase order had already been used. So we went in and manually made the adjustment. Unfortunately, with the new system, it's picked up the purchase order for both of those. So it's not a duplication of payment. One payment was actually for Harvey Connect, and they are correct, and we've actually corresponded with Real Steel to confirm the mix-up there, and we'll make that administrative change to go into the minutes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. I'll move on to community and lifestyle, which is nil. We'll move then on to the notice of motion for the following meeting. Were there any questions in relation to the notice of motion? Councillor Dickinson.
Considering that we've adopted the budget and we are looking at the workforce plan, I was just wondering, do we actually have the capacity to investigate this? Because I can see that it's possibly going to take quite a bit of staff time to follow through on this. So I'm just wondering whether we have the capacity to do that.
CEO.
Through you, Madam President, I think if this was the decision that was made by the council, the initial investigation process to bring back to the council, I think would be okay. We would then need to identify what involvement that would have for the staff, particularly for things like the community consultation processes, and some of those impacts of what the economic, social and tourism impacts would be. So the initial report back as to what that might look like should be okay. However, the process after that, we need to detail what kind of involvement that would be. It's certainly not in our service plans for the particularly the economic development area, so it'll be additional to what they've already got in place. And
Mr. Hughes. Yep.
To the Chair, just to add to that, the Shire of Capel carried out a similar review in-house. So I'd be calling my opposite number there, if they could give us any hints, tips or tricks on their consultation process for their training hours review.
Doesn't the economic development team have an operating budget?
Ask that question again, thanks. I missed that, Councillor.
Doesn't the economic development team have an operating budget? Otherwise, what's the point of having it?
Yeah, the first part of the question, yeah, yes, they do. It's just probably more what they've got planned in their work. Initially, that's already in there for that 12 months. So if it can fit in, fine. It's probably more what is it after that, if they've got a full year in place. Yep.
Any other questions, councillors? No? Oh, sorry, Councillor Dickinson.
So just to follow up from the commentary, this could be would possibly have to be a staged approach then. And would we be able to have some sort of information in regards to how other local governments have managed that? Could that be presented to us prior to next week, or is that too short a time frame?
Through the chair, we can definitely give it a go. So you can reach out to Shire Cable and see what they did and report back.
I see someone waving their hands up in the gallery there. Trish?
Yes. My name is Trish Palminari and I live in Yarloop. I worked for the City of Geraldton when we went through the same process, and we had to engage an independent consultant to do it, which is costly. The other thing is that I was also the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, so you need to engage them as well. So it's a bit of a process.
So we'll have a look at the agenda next week and see what the staff's comments are in relation to this one, and we'll make a decision then, I suppose. Yeah. All righty. Thank you for that contribution. All right. Councillors, there's no matters behind closed doors, so if there's nothing further, I declare the agenda briefing closed at 5:06, and thank you everybody for your